यत्पादसेवोर्जितयात्मविद्यया हिन्वन्त्यनाद्यात्मविपर्ययग्रहम् लभन्त आत्मीयमनन्तमैश्वरम् कुतो नु मोहः परमस्य सद्गतेः यत्पादसेवोर्जितयात्मविद्यया हिन्वन्त्यनाद्यात्मविपर्ययग्रहम् लभन्त आत्मीयमनन्तमैश्वरम् कुतो नु मोहः परमस्य सद्गतेः यत्पादसेवोर्जितयात्मविद्यया हिन्वन्त्यनाद्यात्मविपर्ययग्रहम् लभन्त आत्मीयमनन्तमैश्वरम् कुतो नु मोहः परमस्य सद्गतेः लभन्त आत्मीयमनन्तमैश्वरम् सद्गतेः यत्पादसेवोर्जितयात्मविद्यया कुतो न मोहः परमस्य सद्गतेः सेवोर्जितयात्मविद्यया आत्मविपर्ययग्रहम् परमस्य सद्गते. Mataji's please. पादसेवोर्जितयात्मविद्यया अन्त्यनाद्यात्मविपर्ययग्रहम् लभन्तमात्मीयमनन्तमैश्वरम् परमस्य सद्गतेः पादसेवोर्जितयात्मविद्यया हिन्वन्त्यनाद्यात्मविपर्ययग्रहम् लभन्तात्मीयमनन्तमैश्वरम् यत् सेवोर्जितयात्मविद्यया अन्त्यनाद्यात्मविपर्ययग्रहम् लभन्तात्मीयमनन्तमैश्वरम् Vidyate Yat, whose Pad of the feet, Seva by service, Urjitaya made strong, Atma Vidyaya by self-realization, Hinvanti they dispel, Anadi beginningless, Atma of the self, Viparyaya Graham the misidentification, Labhante they attain, Atmiyam in a personal relationship with him, Anantam eternal, Aishwaram glory, Kuta how, no indeed, Moha bewilderment, Paramasya for the supreme, Sat of saintly devotees, Gatehe the destination. By the disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation: by virtue of self-realization, fortified by service rendered to His feet, devotees of the Lord dispel the bodily concept of life, which has bewildered the soul since time immemorial. Thus they can attain eternal glory in His personal association. How then can that supreme truth, the destination of all genuine saints, be subject to illusion? Purport: I am emaciated. Similarly, sometimes a conditioned soul thinks, I am happy or I am unhappy. Ideas based on the bodily concept of life. Simply by serving the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, however, devotees become free from this bodily supreme personality of Godhead at any time. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadhati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Upam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Satvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhobhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratvishe Namaha Pancha Tattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakhyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Aradhyo Bhagavan Vrajesha Tanayas Tadhama Vrindavanam Ramya Kachidupasana Vrajavadhu Vargenaya Kalpita Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanamamalam Prema Pumartho Mahan Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhor Matamidam तत्रादरः न परः। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते, गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी, वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद, श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. It's a mandir, and however many times one may have been here, when one returns and takes darshan of the deities, immediately the mind says, my God, quite literally. Because even though some devotees may disagree, those who stay at Shyama Sundar, Shri Krishna Balaram and Shri Gaur Nitai are by far the best in the world. No doubt. Any disagreements? Some disagreement? Prithu Prabhu, you are defeated by majority vote. So anyway, the topic here going on is Shishupal's friend Shalva is engaged in a battle with Krishna. And in the course of this fierce battle, Shalva unleashes some magic tricks upon Krishna. And it appears, according to the version of some, as Shukadev Goswami says, that Krishna is bewildered and he falls momentarily under illusion before he regains his original consciousness. And Shukadev Goswami speaks here about how Shri Krishna can never actually be bewildered in the sense that magic tricks are nothing new. Human beings also engage in all sorts of magic tricks. Once the famous magician P.C. Sarkar came to Vrindavan. He was very famous in those days. And he requested Srila Prabhupada for a magic demonstration that he would give. And I think devotees gathered in his quarters and he made lots of things disappear. He made some coins disappear and so on. And finally Srila Prabhupada told him, you can make many things disappear, but I am a better magician than you. So P.C. Sarkar asked him, how come? He says, because I can make something disappear that you can't. He said, what's that? I can make birth, death, old age, disease disappear. So, can you do that? And the magician says, no, I can't do that. So I agree, you are a better magician than me. So this is the real magic. Otherwise, the illusory tricks of this world are of no value, really. So, the verse today has 3 points. 1, that self-realization to be meaningful and perfect must be fortified or strengthened by devotional service to the lotus feet of Krishna. Number 1. Number 2, that when one becomes such a self-realized pure devotee of the Lord, then one transcends illusion and bewilderment. And number 3, when the devotees transcend illusion and bewilderment by worshipping and serving the lotus feet of Krishna, then how can Krishna himself be bewildered? That is not possible. So as far as devotion or self-realization, service to the lotus feet of Krishna, we see in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the first canto the celebrated conversation between Narad Muni and Vyasadeva, where Narad Muni says, Naishkarimyam apyachyuta bhava varjitam na shobhate jnanam alam niranjanam. He says, my dear Vyasadeva, self-realization that is devoid of Krishna consciousness doesn't look very good at all, even if it is equipped with transcendental knowledge. Naishkarmyam means the path of self-realization. It comes from the word nishkarma, which means performing actions that do not have any karmic reaction. Nishkarma. So Naishkarmyam means the path on which one performs such nishkama karma. And here one is devoid, one is free of sinful reactions or any karmic reactions for that matter. So it's the state of self-realization. But Narad Muni says that achyuta bhava varjitam. Varjitam means without, devoid of. If such self-realization, naishkarmyam, is devoid of achyuta bhava, then na shrobhate jnanam alam niranjanam. Na shrobhate doesn't look good. It's not befitting. It's not complete and perfect. Achyuta is Krishna. Bhava means the mood of devotion. In other words, if one, then that self-realization is not complete and perfect until and unless there is Krishna consciousness. Similarly, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the third canto, Mother Devahuti, na vairagya kalpate, na tirthapada sevayai, jivan napi mritohi saha. She says, na iha yat karma dharmaya, that one should not perform or any activity or karma performed that does not make one rise to the level of religiosity is not good. If one is doing that, jivan napi mritohi saha, one is dead even though living. Then she says, even if one has come to the platform of religiosity, na dharma upakalpate, even if one is on the platform of religiosity, na vairagya upakalpate. So even if one has come to that platform but one has not developed a sense of renunciation, then too one is like a dead person or a person who is dead even though alive. And then she says, na tirtha padasevayai, even if one has attained a very high degree of renunciation, but if one is not serving the lotus feet of Krishna, then too one may be living but one is actually like a dead person. Tirtha pada seva. Tirtha refers to holy places. Pada refers to the feet. So Krishna is called Tirtha Pada. One reason is that he is Tirtha Pada because his lotus feet are the perfect pilgrimage place for all living entities and devotees in particular. And another meaning could be that he is Tirtha Pada because all the tirthas or holy places reside at his lotus feet. So seva means service. In other words, ultimately, unless one is serving the lotus, one is as good as dead, even though one may be so-called alive. So a very important point that is made here. So the question is, when one becomes a devotee, then does one become free from illusion? Yes. By Krishna's mercy, one transcends illusion and bewilderment and become situated in pure Krishna consciousness on the platform of perfect and complete knowledge. And then, of course, there is a question of Krishna's bewilderment. When one becomes transcendental to bewilderment by worshipping Krishna, then how can Krishna himself be bewildered? Now, this is a very interesting subject. Can Krishna ever be bewildered? Is Krishna indeed bewildered? Now, from a Siddhantic point of view, of course, how can Krishna be bewildered? Because he is perfect. He is the supreme absolute truth. So definitely he can't be bewildered. So therefore Shukadev Goswami's statement here is of course correct. Everything Shukadev Goswami says is correct. However, there are some nuances that emerge when we study Krishna's Vrindavan pastimes, and even to some degree his Dwarka pastimes. And there is a very beautiful analysis of this subject of whether Krishna is bewildered or he is not bewildered at any time. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has written a nice book in which he makes this analysis. Okay, so before we go into that analysis, I'll repeat what Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says. A question to all of you, because we are living in a time of democracy and people like to vote. How many of you think that Krishna can get bewildered? Please raise your hand. Okay, very few. How many of you think that Krishna can't get bewildered? The majority of you have abstained from voting. You're not sure. So let's see what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's conclusion is, because we depend on the explanations of the Acharyas to understand the scriptural truths. In order to explain this idea, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti introduces two words. One is called Sarvagya, which means all-knowing, omniscient. He knows everything past, present and future. He knows everything everywhere at all times. Or Sarvagya. The second word that he introduces is Mugdha. The word Mugdha, in some ways, it can have many meanings. One of the meanings is to be enchanted, to be, let's say, captivated, enamored. However, it can also refer to some kind of perplexity or bewilderment. So in this context, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur refers to Mugdha as implying a situation where Krishna may not be aware of his being omniscient. He may not be aware that he is God. Now, if someone is Sarvagya, he knows everything, then how can he at some point not be Sarvagya? So Krishna is always Sarvagya, always omniscient, but can he be Mugdha or bewildered at some point? So now Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur takes this analysis forward. He says that Uddhava in the Srimad Bhagavatam approaches Krishna at some point, and especially after he has experienced what Vrindavan is. And he tells him, Krishna, it's truly surprising that you are all-knowing, you are Sarvagya, and yet at one point you call me to take some advice from me. You asked me, should I first go and kill Jarasandha, or should I go and attend Yudhishthir Maharaj's Rajasuya Yajna? You asked me for advice. You are the all-knowing Supreme Lord. You to come and ask me. And your perplexity was not a show. It was not that he was acting perplexed. That in Dwarka, because people are aware of Krishna being the generally he is Sarvagya in Dwarka. But occasionally, he becomes mugdha. He becomes somewhat bewildered in the sense that he does not remember his Aishwarya or his opulence or his godhood or next course of action should be. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, in Vrindavan, however, we see that Krishna is mostly mugdha, is mostly bewildered, and sometimes he is omniscient, sometimes he is sarvajna. So both of these exist simultaneously. Now we must remember that Krishna's bewilderment is not like the bewilderment of the conditioned soul in this world. The conditioned soul is bewildered by Mahamaya, and that bewilderment makes the conditioned soul act in ways that only increase and perpetuate suffering. Krishna's bewilderment is under the influence of Yogamaya, his internal transcendental energy, which is especially meant to fulfill Krishna's purpose of pleasing the devotees and pleasing himself as well. So this is something that Krishna voluntarily chooses. That is the way Krishna's pastimes flow in Vrindavan. And this nourishes the rasa that is exchanged between Krishna and his devotees, the Vrajavasis. So in this way, Krishna is mostly mugdha in the sense that he is not overtly conscious of his own godhood. At one place, Srila Prabhupada explains what is the meaning of the word pastime. The word pastime in Vrindavan means when Krishna thinks he's a cowherd boy. Well, but when that God doesn't like to be God, doesn't like to play God, doesn't like mugdha in the sense that he likes to forget that he is God. Because when he remembers his godhood, he is not able to relish intimate rasa with his devotees. Knowledge of his own opulence interferes with the relishing of the sweetness of rasa that is exchanged between Krishna and his devotees. So then, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur quotes Srila Bilva Mangal Thakur, who says in the Krishna Karnamrit, his magnum opus, that both sarvajnata mugdhata, the quality of being bewildered in the sense that I have explained earlier, they exist simultaneously in the Supreme Lord. Now this is something inconceivable. How is that possible? It is possible because of Krishna's inconceivable energy, his potency. Srila Jiva Goswami elsewhere also says that one cannot understand Krishna unless one accepts the principle of Sri Krishna's inconceivable potency. So therefore, this is something quite extraordinary, that both these things reside inconceivably in Krishna at the same time. They may coexist, or by Yogamaya's arrangement, they may be interwoven with Krishna's purpose. So sometimes Krishna may be mugdha, sometimes at the very next moment he may be sarvajna, and then back again to mugdha. But the default setting in Vrindavan, so to speak, is mugdha. Because that is how Krishna wants to be in Vrindavan. And that is why Vrindavan is such a special place. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur introduces two more words, Aishwarya and Madhurya. Of course, these words we have heard before and we are quite familiar. Aishwarya is opulence. So when Krishna displays his sarvajnata, and that is called Aishwarya. And Krishna doesn't have just Aishwarya. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti says he has Maha Aishwarya, extraordinarily great opulence. So that is Aishwarya. However, what is Madhurya? Is Madhurya simply sweetness? No, it is not. Void of Aishwarya? No, it is not. In fact, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that Madhurya, in the sense of Krishna's pastimes of exchange of rasa, can happen only in the backdrop or background of Aishwarya. So there can be no Madhurya without Aishwarya. For example, let's make it simpler. Consider an ordinary child, an ordinary human baby. People are enchanted by the so-called pastimes of small babies, and everyone gathers around, and so it is quite enchanting. The people find it sweet. But Vishwanath Chakravarti says we can't call that Madhurya. It's just sweet from a mundane point of view. But Krishna's sweetness is something unique, because when Krishna plays the part of a small baby, he still retains his Aishwarya, and he has the capacity to exhibit and present that Aishwarya, that time according to his purpose. For example, when Krishna was killing Putana, he was just like a baby who was suckling at the breast of his mother. This is what babies do. But at the same time, he was so powerful, he exhibited his opulence and killed Putana. Again, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, when Krishna was playing under the cart, who was actually a demon, the Shakatasura demon, he was lying on his back as a baby. And babies, sometimes when they lie on their back, they kick their arms and they flail their arms. It's quite common. They have a kicking motion with their legs. And in the course of that kicking motion, he broke the cart and killed that cart demon. So he was flailing his arms and legs, but he had the potency, the power to kill such a great demon. So therefore, Krishna's pastimes as a baby become attractive, become Madhurya, because he is God. Because he has that Aishwarya, Maha Aishwarya. And at times, according to his purpose and choice, that is revealed or it is manifested. So then, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes in Vrindavan. Madhurya is, he says, when either in the presence or in the absence of Aishwarya, Nara Leela continues. What is Nara Leela? Nara means human. So when Krishna's opulence is displayed, or perhaps when it's not displayed, if the mood of Krishna's human-like pastimes is not transgressed or violated, if that mood of intimacy as a small child or as a boy or as a Kaishora, adolescent, is maintained, is not tainted even in the slightest, then that is called Madhurya. And that happens only in Vrindavan. So therefore, if Krishna knows that he is God, and if the devotees also know that he is God, then that is Aishwarya. But if Krishna doesn't know that he is God, and the devotees also don't know that he is God, then that is Madhurya. But even when the devotees sometimes get the idea that Krishna is God, still it doesn't make a difference to them. That is Madhurya. When they see or hear about Krishna's Aishwarya, his opulence, his Maha Aishwarya, his Sarvajnata and so on, their mood of simple love for Krishna as a son or as a friend or as a lover is not vitiated even in the important concept. And he gives the examples of Mother Yashoda after Govardhan Leela, not thinking of Krishna as anything but her son, who on the little finger of his left hand raises a big mountain and holds it aloft for 7 days and 7 nights Which 7-year-old boy or a human being of any age could do such a thing? But Mother Yashoda is not affected by that display of extraordinary power. She still thinks of him as her son. Similarly, when Krishna sometimes returns from the forest after grazing the cows in the company of his cowherd boyfriends, the demigods descend and they make all kinds of offerings to Krishna with flowers, and they perform arati, they chant some prayers and so on. And the cowherd boys, they look at all this, they see it happening in front of their eyes. But their Sakhya Bhava is not vitiated, it is not spoilt. They still think, oh, Krishna is our friend. They don't think, oh my God, he's God. And this Brahma, this four-headed man is coming, all the demigods are coming and worshipping. He can't be our friend, he has to be God. In Vrindavan, the cowherd boys don't think like that. Neither do the gopis think like that. But when Arjuna saw the universal form of Krishna, as described in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, he became a little bewildered. And he said, oh, I thought you were my friend, but actually you are God. So his Sakhya Bhav was vitiated, was corrupted a little bit in the sense that the sweetness and the intimacy was compromised. Similarly, after Krishna and Balaram killed Kamsa and his fellow wrestlers and his associates, Devaki and Vasudev again started thinking, oh, this is not our son, this is God himself. So their very innocent, pure Vatsalya Bhav, parental mood of affection was compromised momentarily. And Krishna did not like it. So he immediately covered their eyes with the curtain of Yogamaya, and once again Devaki and Vasudev began to think of Krishna as their son. So in this way, Yogamaya, she seamlessly interweaves the Sarvajnata and Mugdhata, that means the omniscient nature and the nature of being bewildered in Krishna in Vrindavan, according to the purpose that Krishna has in mind. So Yogamaya is a perfect servant because she understands her master's moods. And even before, Krishna doesn't need to speak or to make himself known. She understands this is what Krishna wants. And therefore she facilitates this. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives some examples for this. The first is, for example, the forest fire. When, of course, this happened twice in Krishna Leela in Vrindavan. When Krishna was grazing the cows with his cowherd boyfriends, and suddenly there was a forest fire. And when the forest caught fire, they were blazing all around, the cowherd boys became alarmed. And they came to Krishna for help. And at that time, Yogamaya infused within Krishna the Sarvajnata. Earlier he was Mugdha. Earlier he was bewildered in the sense that he was not consciously aware of his godhood. He was playing simply as a cowherd boy with his friends, tending the cows and so on. But now when his devotees were in danger, and there was need to save them, then Yogamaya infused within Krishna again the sense of omniscience, Sarvajnata. And Krishna became aware of his omnipotence and Aishwarya. Oh, what's this fire for me? I'll just swallow it and I'll protect my devotees. So he asked his friends, the cowherd boys, to close their eyes. And when the cowherd boys opened their eyes, they saw. So this is how Krishna is both bewildered and omniscient at the same time. According to his purpose, which is to please the devotees, Yogamaya will arrange for him to be omniscient, which is not that often in Vrindavan. And mostly in Vrindavan, she will arrange for him to be Mugdha, or to be just so enchanted by the intimate sweet love of his associates, that he forgets that he is the Supreme Lord. So therefore, is Krishna bewildered or not? Yes and no. His bewilderment is not like our bewilderment. It is not like the bewilderment of conditioned souls, but his bewilderment is something very, very special, very extraordinary and unique, and it is meant to nourish the pastimes that he engages in with his loving devotees in Vrindavan. Hare Krishna. So we'll stop here. So are there any questions or comments? Yes. Do we have a mic here? Yeah.
Hare Krishna. So I believed all my life in Krishna consciousness that Krishna is inconceivable. But now, if you explain it, it's very conceivable. All of a sudden, the mystery seems to be revealed. How can that be? If on one side Krishna is inconceivable, on the other side there are reasonable explanations based on the acharyas, which make everything very conceivable. I can understand this, like when you ask who thinks Krishna can reveal life, because I can understand both is possible at the same time. But still there must be something which is inconceivable for us, which we can't. What is that which is now still inconceivable? What is that part that is not revealed yet?
What is inconceivable is that these two things can coexist simultaneously, and they can be interwoven into each other seamlessly, and it can just go on like an unending beautiful flow. That is what makes everything inconceivable. And the fact that the all-powerful, all-knowing Supreme Lord can engage in such apparently ordinary activities. Okay. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Maharaj, for the enlightening class. Back to Krishna Gopis. When the gopis were engaging in pastime back and forth, first he would test them and tell them to go home and take care of their responsibilities. And then, see them go through different mood changes and things. And then finally, they were awarded that incredible pastime to be able to dance in the rasa dance with Krishna, and everything was beautiful and flowing very nicely. Then all of a sudden, they became a little bit proud, and then Krishna disappeared. So is this an example of Krishna going from mukta to sarvagya, or any insights?
Yeah. Thank you. Passage explains that as far as the Rasa Leela is concerned, Krishna was Sarvagya, or acting on the platform of Sarvagya, when he understood what the gopis wanted. And then he expanded himself into as many gopis as were present there. That is an exhibition of his Aishwarya, that he can expand himself unlimitedly, he can understand what everybody wants, and he has the capacity to fulfill the desires. But he's mugdha, or he's enchanted and bewildered, when he gets into the mood that he is the lover of the gopis. So then he acts like that. So as a Sarvagya, his Sarvajnata, his omniscience, comes into play when he arranges the drama of the Rasa Leela. But when he actually participates in it, then he's mukta.
And when he participates in it as muktas, and the gopis are reciprocating,
yes,
that then it stays in that mood, and therefore the gopis are also allowed to stay there But when they become a little bit proud, then what happens? Then it becomes
Yes. Otherwise, that mood, so he moves between the two seamlessly. He can move between Sarvagya, Mugdha, Sarvagya, Mugdha. Yoga Maya will decide understanding his purpose. So sometimes he will play as a guru, as God, he will instruct them. And then sometimes he just flows along. So this is again something inconceivable, that he just flows between these two. Yes, I think another question here.
Thank you for the nice lesson. So like you explained that Madhurya happens in the backdrop of Aishwarya. You can understand in the Pragat Leela that Krishna sometimes kills with other things. But in Golok Vrindavan internally it's
So the question is that even in Goloka Vrindavan, in the spiritual world, is there a display of Aishwarya also? Well, Vrindavan, according to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, has even greater Aishwarya than Vaikuntha. When we think of Vrindavan as predominant, it doesn't indicate or doesn't mean that there is no opulence in Vrindavan. It is in fact greater than in Vaikuntha. However, the speciality of Vrindavan is that the sweetness is so great and so intense, qualitatively and quantitatively, and the mood so intimate, that whether such Aishwarya is present to whatever degree or whether it's not displayed, that sweet mood is not compromised even in the slightest. Yes, so there is opulence in Vrindavan also, but it is not important. And you know in the Brahma Samhita verses, what is the opulence of Vrindavan? Chintamani prakara sadmashu kalpa viksha, like that, okay? Yes. Sarvagya.
On the Lord Rama pastime, when the Mata Sita is taken away by Ravana, and the way he is exhibiting is bewilderment, how can we understand?
That is also a similar example. When Lord Ram is lamenting after Sita Devi has been kidnapped by Ravana, and Lakshman has to remind him that you are God. So don't lament, it's all right. Everything will be okay. Then he comes back to his normal situation. Similarly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after he took sannyas, and he was and he went to, I beg your pardon, not sannyas, but he took initiation from Ishwar Puri in Gaya. And there was an enormous transformation in him. He started exhibiting states of devotional ecstasy that were not known before. And he immediately started walking towards Vrindavan. The demigods called out, "Please don't go. Please remember you have a mission to perform. So this is not the time for you to go to Vrindavan." Right? So we find this phenomenon in other forms of the Lord also. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course, is directly Krishna, and Ram is next to Krishna in terms of Nara Leela sweetness. Okay? One final question. Yes. Sorry, yes, 1 minute, we can give the phone.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Nice to see you again.
Thank you.
Wonderful class. Very wonderful.
Thank you.
If I may, I'd like to add a little contribution.
Yes, please.
And you can comment.
Yes.
That's the question. So you wonderfully explained that Krishna, according to the need of the Leela, goes between Mukta and Savanyam, Aishwarya and Madhurya. So one may think, okay, what is below that? And so what is below that is achintya. It is the inconceivable nature of Krishna, who is beyond all logic. And so we can only intuit and realize Krishna. We can approach Krishna through material logic in this way. But ultimately, Krishna has to reveal himself, freedom. And then we can grasp Krishna's inconceivable nature. Therefore, our Vaishnava philosophy is achintya Vedave. See his leela, his moods, his behavior is beyond any material calculation. So I'd like your comment on that.
Thank you very much. Well, there's nothing much to say. You have said it all. Thank you. I agree.
Am I correct?
Yes, you are completely correct. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
As Your Holiness internal potency is Sarvagya and Mukta. Avatar is under this internal potency. What about in the other avatar, like Guna avatar is or Shaktavesh avatar is like Prithu Maharaj is Shaktavesh avatar, Vyasdev is Shaktavesh avatar. So we see the bewilderment is also there. Is it also under the internal potency?
You see, the bewilderment that we are speaking of Vrindavan, that Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is analyzing here. Most of the Shakti Avesh avatars are Jiva Tattvas. And even though they are extraordinarily empowered by Krishna, but they are still not directly Krishna in every respect. They are empowered with a particular quality to fulfill some purpose.
Chapter 18, Varadev was also bewildered to while fighting with the Hiranyaksh.
Rasa, that it's that. Although, of course, although absolutely it is the same, but from the point of view of rasa, what happens in Vrindavan is incomparable. Okay?
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki